Hi, Lindsay. Thank you so much for coming to our show. I really, really appreciate you taking the time out for our audience. And so, how are you today?
I'm really good, thank you. I'm happy it's Friday. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it's
inviting me
finally
along.
Friday.
It's
You're
great.
most welcome. You're most welcome. So, yeah, today we're going to talk about which is dealing with the society's expectation to settle down. I know you're really passionate about talking on this
Yeah.
topic, but before we get to the I know you're a life coach, so our audience would love to know how you got started and what you used to do before being a life coach.
I've just recently full-time gone into switch to life coaching.
Mhm.
Before that, I was working in a finance compliance position. I was doing that for about 7 or 8 years of
Yeah.
doing that, sort of working with regulators, and it was something that I kind of fell into. I never really I had a law degree, I
Yeah.
sort of followed the motions. You go to school, you go to college, you go to university, and I actually took a very kind of not normal approach. I took a 5-year gap year, technically, sort of traveling around. So my life looked very different to most of my friends anyway,
Yeah.
from an early start. So I ended up doing a lot of traveling and working abroad, and then working to London. So I got my first job in a bank in London, was there for 3 years, and then I got an internal transfer to go to Singapore. So and I've just returned, coming back from Singapore for 4 years, where I was working in financial compliance, as well as sort of part-time coaching on the side. And I think for me, that the big sort of change, I think for a lot of people, was the pandemic, and having that chance to really slow down and think, what am I doing? We're so used to running at 100 miles an hour, just planning the next weekend, planning the next trip. I think by the 5th of January 2020, I'd had all my annual leave planned for the year already, just running and going and not really looking where I was really, just how long as I was progressing and ticking things off, I was moving, and so that was fine. And the pandemic really caused me to really sort of slow down. And at the very beginning, I realized that my job wasn't fulfilling me, sort of the bigger picture, looking at my values and what was important to me, and did I think I was making a difference. And for me, I realized that making a difference, making an impact, is a big value of mine. And in my particular job, I didn't feel like I was making that impact. So I started doing my qualifications at the beginning of 2020. So I've been doing it for about 18 months now. Since the pandemic.
So are you doing sometime full time, right? You're doing coaching?
Yes. No, I quit my compliance job in July this year, and then moved back to the UK. I'm in the UK now.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. I want to know more about going back to past, where you had a law degree. So what made you get into law then you didn't pursue a career-wise?
So I went to university. I graduated in 2008. So obviously that was a prime time to be graduating, in the peak recession at that time. But originally I went into law thinking it was money driven, to be honest. I think growing up in a family where, very working class family, and it's a very dramatic analogy, but it's if you don't have money, you're going to die. That pressure to be you need money in life to do well, to succeed. You need money, and we do need money to survive. I think that importance of earning money was big, and so I chose my, you choose your university subjects when you're 16, when you're applying to go to uni. So it was just all, ideally it was that job's going to earn me a good wage, and I was academic, I was getting the grades, was interested in law. It seemed to make sense to me. I'm very much a English person, maths and numbers aren't my thing, and I did well. I got to university and got my 2-1. So I think I was just following those steps and paths that I think is expected of you at that age.
Yeah, it's just society isn't being a doctor, lawyer, or engineer. When you're starting out your career, these 3 things you need to be doing. So
it wasn't pressure from my parents. It wasn't necessarily my parents. They haven't got that pressure. I'm lucky I haven't got that pressure of you must be this or you have to do that. Also, they're fully supportive of what I'm doing now. But it's just that expectation to, well, if you're academic, then you can get a good job and you can earn good money.
You mentioned as well, you love to travel. So you've been traveling for 4 or 5 years, right?
I've technically lived abroad, I think, for over the past 10 years. So after I graduated, obviously it's peak recession, and I got a small job in a personal injury firm, and during that time I sort of realized that, oh wow, and I think the term now is called ambulance chasing. I think people, no win, no fee, and it wasn't the best type of law for me to go into, which kind of put me off. And then I thought, okay, I met all these people at university and they've been doing this thing called a gap year. I mean, I'm from the southwest of England, so not many friends had done that. So I planned to do 3 months traveling, and that was it. But then I ended up going on a ski holiday for the first time and thought, oh, I'll do a ski season just to make it a full gap year. And then that turned into 4 ski seasons and summer seasons, and then traveling in between. So I did a lot of Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, twice, India. So I kind of, in between all the seasonal work, sort of saved up money to do a lot of my traveling, and then living across, I think, 6 countries in 10 years. So my life wasn't very mainstream after graduating. It looked very different from an early age, really.
It's a great experience, isn't it? Like living in a different country. How was the experience was for you? Is it challenging, or like you okay with it?
I think it's sort of being away from home. I got used to not being homesick, because I was in Singapore. Was English is the first language in Singapore. Like some people don't know that, and it's a very like Asia light. It's not. It's very multicultural. Obviously, it's very, very Western over there as well. I think living in, say, France, Austria, Switzerland, and sort of living in countries where you don't speak the first language, and my language skills weren't fantastic because my guests were mainly English. So it is sort of sometimes can be quite isolating, and you'll feeling like the minority sometimes, but it's a great experience. It definitely makes you stronger as a person. I've traveled by myself, and sort of I'm going on a trip next week, and I'm spending 2 nights by myself. My friends join me, and I'm really excited about spending those 2 nights and experiencing Paris by myself. So
So are you planning to move any other country, or like settling down?
At the moment, no. My friends keep asking me this because they just know me as I've never been in the country. I think I was in London for 3 years, and that's been it since in the past decade. But at the moment it's the UK for me, to be based anyway, but obviously with life coaching and working remotely, you can kind of work where you want to work at the moment, so it's much more flexible.
Definitely. So let's get to the topic, like which we're really passionate about, which is dealing with society's expectation to settling down. So what do you actually mean by that? Can you explain it a bit to our audience so we
I think sort of the way of understanding it, it's just, so it's when we're sort of when you're scrolling through social media, that feeling you get like when people are celebrating like engagement rings and marriages and new houses and say having babies. It's just they're very heavily celebrated in society, and sort of the small other things, if you do things that are not on that path, it's not that they're celebrated, it's just on a much smaller scale. These are the big milestones in life that you need to sort of be ticking off, and if you're not doing that, you feel like you're failing, or you're doing something wrong. You feel like you're going off past, or you need to get stage 1, like get that relationship, okay, tick, then you can do marriage. So it feels like sometimes we're not succeeding, we're not being able to sort of start our life until we can get this first rung of the ladder. And I think I was watching, I don't know if anyone else watches, but it was Bridgerton, the period drama that was on Netflix at the beginning of this year. And even though it was set 200 years ago in Georgian England, there's a lot of references in there about, the pressure of girls to get married, and if they're not chosen, then they're a spinster. It's, their value is all about whether they're chosen by a man. And I thought, wow, that pressure today, even though it's not as extreme, it's still pretty embedded in how we look at sometimes women or relationships and being single. It's like it's a bad thing to be single.
That's the interesting thing. And also it's like give us like a pressurize ourselves, right? So when you're having expectation on other people, like that's the pressurize ourselves, like doing certain things. Let's say I started to building a business or trying to be focused on that, but getting into relationship, that's not probably right thing for you at the time being, or not having a child for this period of the time, because there is a other chaotic moment, but all of your friends having a children, all of them friends getting married. So that kind of situation is affect us, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like I'm very happy and comfortable in the fact that like my baby at the moment is my business. That is my priority. That's my focus. I've got my dog who I love. He's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just being comfortable in, say, learning to be comfortable in what you're doing and knowing it's just as valid as them turning around and saying, you know, oh, I've had a baby, you know, or I'm pregnant or I'm engaged. It's just, and that pressure, I think, as well from other people that say, have you met anybody yet? Are you dating? Like coming back from Singapore, obviously I've been long-term single over the past 10 years. I've not had a serious relationship. And from the older generation, I've stopped asking now. I think they've given up, and they know it's not important to me. So have you met anyone yet? Are you dating? But I know it doesn't stop there. It's that pressure that once you get a boyfriend, when you're getting engaged, when you're getting married. I know it's not just it's not just a single people. It's always the constant pressure to be moving to that next rung of the ladder. Yeah,
definitely. Like before I get married, it was like when you get married, when you go married, and then when you're having your first child. Now it's like you have your first child. Now it's like, when is the second one coming? You know, it's always the case, and it's for like everyone. Then when you're buying your house, when you're doing something next, where your next trip will be, where you're going holiday, it's always there. So if someone's going through that kind of situation, then always like a probably friends and family, most of the cases they have them kind of question. Obviously, outsider wouldn't care, like a stranger wouldn't care about where you're doing what and where your next step is. It's mostly like your inner circle, like close friends and family members. So how to deal with that? So how are you dealing with it at the moment?
At the moment, I think the first sort of thing is to be finding out what it is, you know, if you are doing something different, like if you do feel like you're not matching up to society's expectations, is to really sort of like look inwards and discover what it is that is your why, your passion, your fire. You know, once you, I think, have that, and you're not looking for a house or a relationship or something to give you that, it's cliche, but it's all about looking inward. And that's, I say, with the 12-week program I have, it's all about uncovering your fire to give you that purpose, that direction that you're craving from that relationship, to start then, you know, walking, you know, up that ladder. But it's like when you find your own passion and you have your own purpose and your own why, you then stop, you know, you can put your blinkers on and you feel less annoyed or jealous or worried about what everyone to the left or right of you is doing, because once you discover that, your confidence and your trust in yourself and your belief will be stronger. And also sort of dealing with other people, I think a really important thing is to find more of your people who are your cheerleaders, who do support you. And obviously your family, you can't choose your family in the way they think, but I think, understand that you know, you could argue until forever, you know, they're not necessarily going to understand your point of view, but I think it's important to reach out and find, like, whatever it is, you know, say if you're single, find more single people that understand what you're going through, you know, or have that pressure, you know, who kind of like, who not your, it's just someone who can understand what you're going through and support your decisions. Like if you want to start a business, you know, I'm surrounding myself with a female entrepreneur society, so they understand that it's like whatever it is you're doing on whatever path you've chosen, which is not the same as everybody else, then to kind of surround yourself more with the people that are supporting you and are, you know, clapping you and supporting you. That's sort of the main sort of two things really, is if you're worried yourself, or you're comparing yourself to society and are worried that you're falling behind, it's about trying to find out, let's say, looking inwards, not outwards, for that happiness and fulfillment. And then secondly, find more people that support you, you know, that's on board with you.
Even though despite all of these things, even though myself, I sometimes go through the kind of situation looking, a lot of people ask me different things when you're doing your next thing, where do you do other thing, like in a business wise, you can do so many things. Even though you're a life coach, You can do your online one-on-one coaching, or you can do online courses, work with your affiliate and things like that. But there is something is right for you, right? You probably enjoy doing like a one-on-one, but then you think about when with making money wise, the courses is much better. You can scale, you can make millions out of it.
Yeah.
So how do you control your mindset during the time? Obviously, you mentioned like talk to people who's going through like a similar situation. Even then, like we get affected.
Is in comparison, like, oh, she's doing that or he's doing that, maybe I should be doing that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And even though myself, for example, like I'm doing this business, but there is opportunity doing another thing as well. But other people are saying, oh, why do you do multiple things? Why do you do three things? But I'm thinking about, this is my capacity of doing one thing, right? I'm good at, and my focus only can go for one thing. And if I do like three things, I'm not going to be like a master at it. But again, there is a lot of things people are saying, like friends or family, do three things, do four things, or have like a multiple kids. So sometimes like even having like a one is fine for you, but for society is like, why do you have like a one boy, one girl, or like a two boys, two girl? For giving the example for our audience. So how do you have the mindset like, this is the something I really need to be doing. This is my goal. Like I'm fine with the one child or two child. I'm fine with the one business and scale it. I don't want to look around at two, three things.
I think again, it's similar sort of, say, going inwards and sort of slowing down and listening, say to that intuition, to that voice, to that gut, gut feeling, and knowing what's right for you. And some, there's that trick between what's being scared, fearful, what's your intuition, and that fine line in between the two. But I think it's really important to not forget that voice. Once you uncover that gut and what's wrong for you, right for you, there's some, people could say to me exactly similar, like, why didn't you do a group course? And it's just, everyone's different, got their own skills. Like, I'm someone who likes to sort of really master something before I go on to the next thing. That's sort of just the way I am. And some people are like multitasking. It's just, I think, knowing yourself and knowing what you're capable of. And also looking at, okay, who is this person that's recommending you to do these things? Like, I work with coaches and business coaches. I work with numerous business coaches. I don't know if you do, but they're the kind of opinion I really appreciate and value. Whereas if it's, say, my dad, who has never done this sort of thing before, and he's just heard of this or thinks this, it's like, well, it's not like, oh, of course I know better, but I will take on board their recommendations a little less, if that makes sense. It's just careful about, hang on a minute, not who are you to tell me this, you can take it on board, but how much you let it sink in and impact you about what you should and shouldn't be doing. I think, again, trust your gut, and also have that mentor or coach or someone that you're looking up to and following from experience and following from advice. I suppose that's from a business perspective. But again, from having children, for getting married, for getting engaged, for being single, it's just, are you happy?
It's like getting advice from a right place, right? So if you want to have the children, ask like who already got children, and ask them like how easy or difficult it is. If you're going to build a business, ask the business person. Like if you're a life coach, ask another life coach how they're actually doing it, or what is the best way, right? Figuring this out.
Exactly. It's to say, it's a good to say, just always remember who's giving you advice, and ask them questions back again, sort of like, well, why do you think I should do this? And they might not be very substantiated, it's like, where has this advice come from? And so going back to say that expectations to say to settle down, to get married and everything else, it's just, if maybe ask them, well, okay, why did you choose to have children? And some people just know, like, oh, I've always wanted to have children. And I think it's valid to say, like, for me now, I'm 34 and I don't have any maternal instincts apart from like my dog, who is my baby, my first child. And I don't know if I want children. I don't have that gut. For me, having children is very much a head decision right now. It's not a heart or a gut decision. And we'll see what happens. I never say never, but for me, some women turn around and say, I've always wanted children. But how many people might have children because, oh, well, you have to? But it's like,
Yeah.
why do you have to? You know, some people don't have any reasons as to why. So
Yeah, you got
I mean,
choices, isn't it?
not being aggressive about it, but I think it's fair enough to ask questions and say,
Yeah.
well, why do I have to have children? Or, you know, my sister says to me, oh, we have to have children. I'm like, why? She's like, oh, you're going to be lonely when you're old. I'm like, my children can move to Australia and leave me all by myself.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a reason to have children. So, but again, it's having these discussions with the right people who are going to be open-minded sort of to have that. And some people you just can't win with. So
Yeah, it's a great way to do the like asking them questions. Always like there is no answer, or
yeah,
they don't know themselves. So it's just a society norm. Like other people are doing, why not you doing? Why are you like doing different than everyone else? That's the main problem again. And with me, like what I try to do is obviously sometime it affect me. So it used to affect me. So for the past 3 years, what I'm doing is writing down my vision board. So I have my journal, I write it down on my computer, I can see it on my phone every single day. So if anyone asks me like you need to do this and that, I was like, go back to on my vision board. Like I know what I need to do in next 5 years, I'm doing one business. Or next 5 years, I only want to have like a one child. I don't want to go for two. I can't focus on that. So it's like having your own thing. Like is that age I'm going to buy my own house? How many bedroom needs to be? It doesn't matter what other people saying, where I need to be. If I'm living in Manchester, I live in Manchester. If I go in London, then moving to London is my own choice. It doesn't really matter like where is a good place. I need to find out for myself. So a lot of people, like my family's all over the UK. Some of them in Scotland, some of them in London, some of them in Luton. So they're like, oh, come from London. A move to London is better than Manchester. So like, stay in Manchester. So I need to figure out what is good for me. So I always write down everything. What is my life gonna look like? My dream life look like? So that way I'm not compromising on the future. So if anyone says something, I know it's gonna affect me. Then I just go and look back, like what was my vision was. So am I going? Am I just going through their own dream, or am I just following my own? So that way it helps. So how do you tell your clients to figure out themselves, like what step need to be doing in order to stay in the path?
That's the thing, actually. I think what you brought up was having a vision board. Like you took some time out to really figure out what it is that you wanted, right? You took that time to think, what is it that I want? You got clear on what you wanted your life to look like and how you wanted to feel and how you wanted to pan out. And sometimes it doesn't have to be, I want to live in this country and have this house and have these children. And it doesn't have to be that specific. It's just about more about how you're feeling, you know, how you want to feel on a day-to-day basis. And it could be by the beach. It could be, you know, you could just only work in the evenings or something like that. You know, it's getting clear on what it is you want. And I say a lot of the stuff with my clients, often they know the areas of their life that they aren't happy with and that they're not content with, but they don't really know what it is that they do want or what is going to make them happy. So the first pillar of the coaching program I have is all about finding out what it is that lights you up, what it is that you want to do. How are you not happy? Okay, well, how do you think you can improve this? And often it's going to be things like, oh, well, if I have a boyfriend. Okay, but then why do you want a boyfriend? Because don't want to be lonely. Okay, well, how do you think you're lonely? How could you be less lonely without a boyfriend? You know, like, can you sort of get more friends, or can you interact more with your family? Or it's you keep asking why, and not sometimes you think you want and that relationship or that house isn't necessarily, that's not the only way of fulfilling these desires. So as you said, like with your vision board, it's really important to get clear and intentional about what you want. And then once you know, and this should excite you. Like I'm sure once you did your vision board, you got really excited and passionate about pursuing these things. And then that gives you the confidence then to stop worrying about what everyone else is doing and keeping on your own path.
Yeah, definitely.
And not worrying about that.
It really
and
helps.
You can change. I mean, I don't know if my vision board tends to change quite a lot, you know, within sort of 6 months, and that's okay. But I think it's just about making sure that it is aligned with how you're feeling and what's important to you and to you right now.
Yeah, life is like unpredictable anyway, like a COVID and everything. Why it made you move from Singapore to here.
Exactly.
like you had like a different plan probably in 2019 and change on 2020. So even though with my business wise and everything, we used to have like a big office and everything. Right now, we decided not to have office anymore. We just work from home. It's worked well in last year. So our
Yeah,
productivity increased and everything. So we went for a different path. So same way, like things are changing. Before it's like having a small house would be fine, but right now we need a bigger house because of we work from home, we need office space, studios and things like that. So things change and we have to adapt with the current situation, and
exactly.
little bit changes here and there is totally fine. It doesn't really have to be like the whereby I wrote you have to be exact same way the life going to be. It's not.
Yeah,
Sometimes that death could be happening when you have friends and family members, the trauma you're going through or illness and everything. So you're gonna be off track with your vision and your life. So yeah, making an adjustment is totally fine.
that's the thing. I think having it at the core is, again, I call it like the North Star. As long as you've got
Yeah,
that big North Star that you're heading towards, if you have to do this a few times or go
yeah,
around, that's totally normal. So yeah, don't get stuck on the fact that your life only has to look like that. Like even
yeah,
once you've discovered, and think, so people's expectations, so if you want children and you're struggling to get pregnant, it's just there's other ways of still becoming a family. And again, it's not this, or you're taking other routes. And I think it's just whatever stage you're at, these expectations, if you're single, if you're climbing these ladders or whatever rung you're on, it's
yeah,
okay to go sideways or go the long way, I think. Yeah, and being nice, being compassionate to yourself and being kind to yourself, and trusting. I think just trust that
yeah.
if you want something enough, it will happen.
Yeah, like you mentioned, like on a pregnant wise, recently we've been through the same kind of situation with the friends we know. Like they've been probably trying 4 or 5 years to have their first child, and it's not happening, and they're totally fine with it. Their relationship is fine. It's not like
Yeah,
they having an issue, but it's about the society. Every time they visit their parents, visit their family members, is like when you're having your child, why is not happening and everything. That made them proper depressed, and it affected
yeah,
on their relationship is so bad. It does, their center point was like having a child, but even though they forgot like why they got together in the first place, it wasn't like for a child. It's about the two-person got together because of the love they have, or even they got married. But because of
yeah,
the society pressure, it tends to like ruin the whole good relationship you had,
yeah.
and that's like a really sad to see. And we don't actually see it like. So how do you even just stop that kind of situation? Like you can't stop your family members to tell them like show up, or you're going to ruin the relationship as well. At the same time, it's going to be affecting you because there is something is not right for you. It's not happening, so it's going to be affect you on all the time. Like with those who can't have a child and seeing other people having a child, probably they're in a friend circle, they're gonna be upset and feeling the bad about it as well.
I think it's something that now it's still quite a taboo subject in terms of talking
Yeah,
about miscarriages, and sort of my friends now, it's still very much no one wants to say anything. It's a very sensitive topic, and
mm-hmm.
you don't want to say. And now it's very much like we don't want to say when you're having a baby. I think people are generally much more mindful
Yeah,
about coming out with these, or when's your next child, or when you're going to have a baby, because I think people are more aware. It is much more socially aware now that there are
yeah,
problems with conceiving. But I think those close family members that are closest to you, I think it's if you are that close to them, it's about being open and trusting them, and I think if they realize, because sometimes we assume people feel a certain way, and if you tell them like, actually, we are trying, so not back off, obviously, bit not just like that, but I think just sort of being open and brave to communicate,
yeah,
what's happening with those who are closest to you, is something. And I think you'd be surprised, again, with certain friends, sort of, I assume they think certain ways and I don't speak up.
yeah,
But I think it's, if something is really hurting you and it is affecting you, sort of to communicate them and be open, like, we are trying, but we're struggling. And I'm sure that other person who is close to you is you know, going to be really sorry, you know. And it's just, you can't assume people know everything, you know. I think with a lot of things with communication, we assume people realize things, and they don't. That's all levels of communication, not just with sensitive topics like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Because me and my wife, we both got married in 2018. Like after first year of getting married, like everyone start talking, like when having our child and everything. And beginning of when we got married, I spoke to my wife, and look, whatever happens, people gonna say something, and like before we got married, when you get married and everything. So next thing will be like when you're having a child. So we have to keep in mind, what do you want? Are we getting married to have a child, or just the sake of this relationship? If it's the sake of this relationship, ignore the all noise. People gonna say something and do something, just ignore it. Just let go over your head. No, it's gonna affect you. And I mentally try to be strong with it. Whatever happens, it's gonna happen. We're gonna try and just leave it to God, or wherever the power we believe in. And whatever happens, it happens. And then we have to have like a plan out, what do we need for our life? And everything else, it comes, family, friends, whoever they ask, just all right, just tell them like we're trying, or just make a prayer for us. And that's it. If anyone's trying to be negative, why do you try this? Why do you do this? Just ignore it. Don't even talk to them for a few days. Just ignore it for a few days, and they're gonna realize like they're not happy with that. Because you have to take some action as well. At the same time, it's just not like it going over your head. You need to tell them like, just stop. Enough is enough. First one or two times, if you ignore it inside you, that makes sense. But if someone says 10, 20 times, 30 times, every time they sees you, the same topic comes over and over. We need to like, I'm not comfortable talking about it anymore. Just have a full stop in there. So taking like a control over yourself is most important, I think.
So it's that kind of, say within coaching, you know, that word boundaries, you know, it's just, you can't please everybody. You can't be nice to everybody, to forsake yourself and how you're feeling. So it's just to say, again, getting clear on how you want to feel, the people that you want in your life. And obviously family, you can't just, well, some people do obviously don't speak to certain family, it's harder than others. But yeah, just to say, look, this is what I want, and I appreciate it if you would stop asking me now, or this is the situation, we are trying, but can you stop asking, you know, because it makes me feel X.
Yes, some people are different than others. Some people are understanding. If you just explain to them that way, they won't understand it. Some people is never going to understand it. Even though you just said that, like back off a little bit, they're going to come back in 10 minutes and going to start saying the same thing again. And I had experienced it many, many times, especially with the like Asian culture. We find out like, if you are younger, then you're stupid. You don't know nothing about life. And if I'm 5 years, 10 years older than you, I know everything in this life. So that kind of situation is happening with us. So we have to be sometimes take a stand for ourselves. I know it's not easy thing. Like it's saying is easier than it's get done. Like we're gonna ignore you, but it didn't really happen. Actually, a human being, so we have the emotion. We take it inside us. So that's why sometimes when you need to speak up, I think we need to speak up.
And that's the thing. So if you have people like this in your life, that's when you need to balance out and to find the people that are going to be supportive, and someone who you can rely on and lean on as well. So
it's great. So we take running out our time. So if you want to give some advice to our audience, those listening on to the topic, what would be like here in a few minutes?
And that's the thing. I think so. My sort of like niche is sort of working with sort of like single women, or say single people, and so my top advice would be to really go, it's cliche, but to look inwards, really sort of slow down, uncover what it is what's really important to you, what is it, you know, and try to uncover those old passions as well. I think a lot of us in like modern day, we forget what we do for fun. What is it that, you know, you feel once you, it's like a fire, it's that gut feeling, whether it's a debate topic, whether it's, you know, horse riding or whatever. It's really uncovering what it is that you're passionate about. And it doesn't mean you have to like quit your job and pursue that. It's just about uncovering what lights you up, what really makes you passionate, and then how to get more of it in your life and feeling good. And then once you know, and once you've uncovered what it is you want from your life, you're going to stop worrying, one, what everyone else is doing and that comparison mindset. I mean, not forever. I mean, everyone has days when they look at each other and that you compare yourself to people, but that stronger inner voice will be aware and sort of shut it down quicker. And also the fact that you rather than looking at everyone else for inspiration, you know, sometimes I think we look at other people because we don't know what we want. We don't have that direction. We don't know what we're looking at. So again, once you've uncovered what your direction is, what your path is, you're going to stop looking at other people for that guidance as well. And so once you know what you want, you'll have that automatic confidence and motivation and excitement to go and get it. And so that's with, if you're single, or I said, like you said yourself, you know, the pressure of, do I have more than one child, or sort of business pressures. It's just, there's always going to be expectations for other people. So really get clear on what it is that you want and what makes you happy, and stick to that. You know, you find out, say, that North Star that you want, and then just keep following it. However the direction takes you, you'll have that goal and that purpose.
Yeah, thank you so much for the advice. I hope everyone taking action. So like those who's listening wants to work with you or learn more about you, how they can find you?
Yep. So working with me, as I said, is a 12-week one-to-one program. It's called Restart. It's mainly for single women who are, say, looking at their friends, thinking, oh, what, you know, when am I going to start my life? Why can't I be happy? All I want is a relationship. Like, I don't feel good enough. I'm failing. And say I help them find their passion, you know, uncovering their like limiting beliefs, and, you know, uncovering their value, you know, and things that can, about bringing them more aware and living more consciously, rather than, say, looking at what everyone else is doing on the outside. And other ways of working with, you can find my Instagram. It is Lindsey Jane Gordon _. It's like all one word. That's mainly where I'm most active. And I've also recently launched a Facebook group. It's called Single Girl Socials, which is all about uniting single women. So as I talked earlier, it's like, if you are the only single girl and you want more sort of camaraderie, people that can relate to dating today, and also people to hang out with at weekends, you know, people who are more available, then it's a global community, and that's on Facebook as well. So you just have to search that. But and my website is just lindseyjanegordon.com as well.
All right, thank you so much, Lindsey, for taking the time out or sharing your knowledge with our audience. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. I hope you have a wonderful day.
Yes, and
yourself. I wish you good luck with your career. You too.
Thank you, and you.
That's a wrap, guys. So thanks for listening to this episode. I'll talk to you in our next episode. Till then, take care, stay safe, stay healthy. Take care.